Hopefully this is the right monitor. It's recording. All right, so today we're going to start talking about methods. And methods are important in lots of ways. A method is just a way of creating code that you set aside to run in a future manner. And it's a way to separate your code out into little pieces of functionality, like Lego blocks. And if you build enough of these methods, you can build them up and do a lot more code with them. So, for instance, a menu that you're going to rewrite a lot of times might be a perfect place for a method. Or if you're printing something out, always the same would be perfect for a method. The acronym that Ruby kind of coined is called DRY. Anybody know what DRY stands for? D-R-Y? Yes, very good, Zach. Do not repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. So code that, if you're constantly repeating yourself, you have code in your program that you have to modify 1,000 different places. If you turn it into a method, I only have to modify it once. So we think of a method just as a way of setting aside some code for future use. All right, that's the way I like to think of a method. So let's say I have a string that I always want to print, like we'll call it, let's say I want to always print out hello, Dave. And I'm going to have that a lot of times in my code. Okay, we'll start real simple. So I could just say puts hello, Dave, and then I have some more code, right? Some more code. And then I might have to call hello, Dave again. And so I'm going to call hello, Dave, and then I might have some more code. And I might do that 10 or 15 times in my program. Okay? So if I wanted to change my code then, and say Dave is no longer here, I have to change this to hello, Ray. I'd have to go change every single line in my program that had Dave in it, right? Now I can use search and replace and all that stuff, but every line of code that I have in my program is another point of failure. It's another place that I would have to test to make sure it works right. I might miss one of these, and the president of the company might be named Ray, and I missed it once, and I'm going to have my head on a table, right, if he sees it in the code somewhere, and it says hello, Dave, instead of hello, Ray. Say I missed one. So it makes sense that this type of code, if I'm going to use it a lot, should be put into a method. All right? So a method for this is at the top. We have to define our methods before they're utilized. So typically in almost every language, you put your methods at the top of your code. Okay, so we define all of our methods first. And to define a method, we use the keyword def, which is short for define. Very good, define. And I give my method a name. And this is just like a variable name. I can call it whatever I want. And so I'm going to call it hello. And my def needs an end, so that becomes a block of code that will be executed sometime in the future. All right? So inside of here, I might put this code here, puts hello, Ray. All right? So now when I run this, and let's call it Dave just so you see something different, what's going to be printed out to the screen? Right, I'm going to print hello, Ray 3 times. This is not going to be used at all because I didn't invoke that method. I didn't execute that method. All I did was set aside some blocks of code, some statements of code for some future use. So let's run this and see, because I don't think you believe me. There you go. Hello, Ray. Didn't do anything with my hello, Dave. If I didn't have this code at all, it would do nothing, right? Ruby interprets this, creates a new method, sets it in its memory, and then I quit. I never actually invoke that. So to call that method, we just invoke the name of the method. That's all I have to do. The name of the method, hello, by itself will execute that method. So that's just like a function or a, what do you call them in Visual Basic? Subroutine, just like a subroutine, a procedure, a method, a function. Yeah, there's lots of names for it, but they're essentially the same thing. I'm defining some code, and then I'm calling the code. Okay? So now that I called it, the program says, oh, I know how to do that. That's a new method that you defined. And I will execute all the lines between my def and my end every time I call this method. So now when I run it, I get hello, Dave. And I can do that a bunch of times. All right, hello, Dave, hello, Dave. Now there's only one place in my program that I have to change, and I call this Ray. Now I run my program. My hello method doesn't, my calling of the hello method doesn't change. So I say hello. Hello, Ray, and I don't have to change anything else. I've set aside this code as one place in my program that I have to modify. That becomes a method. All right? Everybody see that? All right, let's see what happens if I execute it after the fact. So since Ruby is an interpreted language, it comes along and says, okay, I'm looking for hello. Do I have anywhere in my Ruby language a method called hello? Because there are already some built-in methods for it, like puts, gets. Those are built-in methods to the Ruby program, like string.reverse. That's a method that we're calling. That's code that somebody else already wrote for us, and we're just calling that code. So this has to be defined before I utilize that method, and so we get a problem, undefined local variable or method called hello. All right, so that's what you'll see when you're writing these methods if you call it before you define it. Everybody see that? So I have to put this above, and that's why convention-wise we put all of our methods at the top. And then we start our main program. And you might even define this as main program here in a comment. So I might put all my methods up here, and then I'm going to call my main program. All right, any questions on that? All right, in our methods, we can add other things. I can have lots of stuff in here. Different lines of code. And every time I run it, it's going to execute both of those lines of code. So I ran it 3 times. It's executing both lines of code. Everybody see that? Am I recording? Hello? I think oh well. I'll talk louder. All right. So I can put anything I want. I can put a whole program inside of this one method. I could have a while loop. I could say 10.times do puts number, and put number in my goalposts. And now every time I call it, it's going to print my number 10 times plus that. So I've got hello Ray 0 through 9, hello Ray, hello Dave 0 through 9, etc. So this method can be as complicated as I want. All right, any questions on that so far? All right, yes? Sure, I get any code, any valid Ruby code I can put inside of this. So this could be a while loop instead of a 10.times, anything I want. We can, and I'll get to parameters in a second, yes. Yeah, we can get parameters in a second. So I can even call other methods. Let's say that I want to have this counting method, and I'm going to put this program in here. This is a little method that counts and prints out the number 0 through 9, and I can call that method inside of this method. All right, so now what's going to print out to the screen? Right. So it'll do exactly the same thing I just did, except that hello Ray is called first, hello Dave is printed, then it calls the method count, which has to be defined above there. I can't put my count below this, remember. If I put it underneath my hello, Ruby looks at each line one at a time from the top of the program down, and it comes to this line and it says, okay, I want to execute the method called count. Well, I haven't defined that yet. I don't know where it is, so it's going to crash here. Well, it should have crashed here. Why is it not crashing there? Wow, really? You got to be kidding me. That's just insane. I know why. Because it's not actually executing here yet until I call the hello method. The hello method then calls the count. And by the time I get to the hello method, count is already defined, so I don't have a problem. All right, but still, that's interesting. Still, yeah, if I move it all the way down below, it's going to fail, sure. Darn well better. So there, I got a crash. So that's the same thing, right? So, but I like to do them in reverse order. Other languages require that they're defined before you actually invoke them. And in this case, it's just set aside. It's not actually invoking it yet. So, but I like to do them in reverse order anyway. Count is called here, so I think it makes more sense to have the count defined before I call it. All right, so that does the same thing. And in my hello, I can have more code. I can call lots of methods. And so you can start to build up, I like to think of them as little Lego blocks, a Lego block of count. And I can use that method in other programs. Now that I've written it once, I can copy that code and use it again, and it'll do the same thing. It's just little Lego blocks that I can build up my program with. Yeah. It does automatically in here. If I start typing count, no, you'd have to modify the original language. You can do that with some classes that we'll get to next quarter, but not really, no. In the same file, though, you notice that it does do my IntelliSense. It knows now that I have a count method defined. It knows I have a hello method defined, etc. Yes? Yes. Copying and pasting it for now. Next quarter, we'll talk about putting these in classes, and then you would just include the class, and then you could use all of these. So, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Getting ahead of me there. All right, any questions about methods? These are very simple methods. You have to define them. You give them a name. You call them whatever you want. I can put any kind of code I want inside the method, and I execute that method by just using the name of the method. I can also, since it's just a method, I can say 10.times do hello. So what's that going to do? Print a bunch of hello Rays and hello Daves and accounting, right? So this is just, I can call a method multiple times as well. All right. So we can also, it's already been brought up that I can pass parameters. Now, does everybody know what a parameter is? No. Okay, so a parameter is a way of passing data into the method. See, I want my method to operate on some different data every time. So say I don't want to hard code Ray and Dave into these methods, so I'm going to take this out and make this more simple. And let's say I want this name to change. I want to be able to call hello with any name I want. Okay? So I would be able to pass in data into this hello program as a parameter. It's called a parameter. And parameters are put, now I'm going to say with parentheses, although Ruby doesn't require them. Every other language does, so get used to using them. I can define a parameter with a variable name. So I can name my variable whatever I want, like name might be useful. And this name now is a variable that's available inside of this method only. Inside of that method only. Yeah. It is. It is a bad variable name. Let's call it first name. How about that? Does that make you feel better? Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a keyword in a lot of things. So, all right. So, hello, Ray. Now I can replace this Ray, this hard-coded name, with the name of this variable. So, inside of here, I can say hello plus first name. Right? That will concatenate whatever they pass into here gets concatenated into my hello method. And that gets printed out to the screen. So, no, Ruby doesn't care about declaring variables. They spring into existence the first time they're seen in the code. All right? I know that goes against all your Visual Basic and C# and all that stuff. But they're not required to be declared ahead of time. So now, to invoke that method, to call that method, I have to say, and Ruby Minds IntelliSense already says, you got to pass me a parameter. It says, I want additional information. I don't want to just call hello, because if I do that, it's going to crash on me. It says wrong number of arguments, and so the word argument or parameter is used interchangeably here. Arguments are data that I want to pass into my method to make this available inside my print statement here. So I'd have to pass the parameter or the argument Dave. All right, so if I pass in Dave, Dave gets stuffed into first name as if I said first name equals Dave, same thing. And then it's now available inside my method, and it will print this out. So let's run it now. And it says, hello, Dave. I can call my same method with Ray, and I'm passing it different information into the method, and so each time I call it, first name has a different value in it, and puts will print this out. Does everybody see that? Any questions on that? This is key to get. This is key in any language. Every language has some way of passing data, and we call it passing information into the method. If you want to think of it like passing a football, these things here define what the football is. The parentheses are the football. I'm passing something into this method, and I'm accepting it on this end. I'm receiving it into this variable name, and that variable name then is usable inside of this method. All right, what happens if I do this? Or let's start with this. What happens if I do that? It'll say hello 12, all right? Because it's a string. How about if I do this? All right, I get an error, but I get a different error than you would think. The error comes when I'm trying to add a number to a string, right? This is the error that I'm getting. If I look at in the methods inside the hello method, I get this error. It's on this line. So I could change this, and that's the one nice thing about Ruby that I love, since it's interpreted. I could change this, and this automatically takes whatever is passed in and converts it to a string for me. All right? No care about data types. Isn't that great? That's so different, right? So I can pass in a 12. The 12 gets interpolated in the string here. That's the fancy CS word. Interpolated, this sharp brace converts it to a string for me. I don't have this error, and I'm all happy. Isn't that great? So I can say hello, and so it prints out 12. I can also do math inside of here. What is this going to print? One, two, two, zero. All right. So Ruby, first of all, does anything as an equation before it calls the method. So this is going to add 12 and 20 together and get 32. 32 then gets passed into the first name, and it should say hello 32. Right? See how that worked? I could also say, pass in this, Dave plus Jones, and what's going to be printed out? Yeah, it's going to concatenate this first. So this will be Dave space Jones as one string. Then that string gets passed into the first name variable, and the first name variable gets printed out here. Bada boom, bada bing. Isn't that great? Isn't that cool stuff? So I can pass in anything I want here. And in fact, I could pass in an array, and it will print out hello array, just because of the way I wrote my method here. All right, any questions on that?
Is it possible, like,
Dave dot hello? No, not yet. Next quarter.
Okay.
We can. That's called extending a class, and we can add methods to the string class. Like they have a reverse method, and they have a up case and a down case, and all those kind of methods. I can add my own methods to the string class, and you'll see that can be fun. But we'll do that next quarter. Yes, Jeremy.
Is there any demand for people who actually know how to
Speak
speak binary?
binary?
Or like,
No, absolutely no demand. Any other question? Absolutely none. Nobody cares about anybody that speaks binary. Yeah, don't.
I don't speak binary.
That's not a skill that anybody is willing to pay for,
Okay.
that I know of. I'm certainly not willing to pay for it. All right, isn't that fun? Our first method with a parameter. Now, I can also do some other methods that we're running a little bit out of time. We can do some more tomorrow. Let's make a method that will add two variables together. Okay, I can pass two different variables or arguments into my add method, and both of them are available, and so I can do something like this, A plus B. All right, so if I call my add method, add already knows that I have two parameters that I have to do. So I'm going to say 2 and 2, and what will that print out? 4. Okay, so the 2 gets stuffed into the A. It's by location in the list of arguments. Yeah, it'll work. So this prints 4. So 2 gets put into the A, 2 gets put into the B. It says 2 plus 2 is 4, and it prints out the 4. All right? And what you're saying, I think, is if I wanted to do X like this as a string, Y, all right, the string X gets stuffed into the A variable. The string Y gets stuffed into the B variable. What does a string X plus a string Y do? Ruby says, oh, that's just a concatenation, so it's going to stuff them together, and I should get XY as the string result. Isn't that cool? So that's a way I can pass additional arguments into this, and I can have as many arguments as I want. I can have 1,000 arguments going into this method.
I thought we weren't allowed to argue.
You're not allowed to argue. I am always right. All right, any other questions on this so far? Tomorrow we'll talk about some more variable scope and things like that. There's a lot more to deal with methods. So, all right, go away and dream of Ruby. Have fun.